Nolan Tate never expected a knock at the door past midnight, especially not in the middle of a thunderstorm with his 5-year-old son, fast asleep upstairs, and a kitchen faucet that wouldn't stop dripping. He cracked the door open, holding a baseball bat in one hand, just in case. But it wasn't a threat. It was a woman completely drenched, mascara smudged, hair flattened to her cheeks, and shivering like she hadn't been warm in hours. "I'm sorry," she said, her voice hoarse. "I don't mean to scare you. My car broke down." I didn't know where else to go. Nolan looked past her at the empty road. No car in sight. No headlights. No cell phone in her hand either. "I'm not crazy," she added quickly. "I swear. I walked for a while after my phone died. I saw your porch light." He hesitated, then lowered the bat. "You're lucky this neighborhood even has porch lights. Most don't. Please. Just for tonight. I'll leave first thing in the morning." He looked at her again, really looked. She was shaking, her lips borderline blue. There was no way he was sending her back out into that storm. With a sigh, he stepped aside. "Come in." She looked stunned for a second, then stepped inside, hugging her arms around her. "Thank you. I have a spare blanket, maybe some dry clothes. You can sleep on the couch." She nodded. "That's more than enough." "Really? Thank you." He didn't ask her name. She didn't offer it. He handed her an old t-shirt and sweatpants, showed her where the bathroom was, and returned to the living room to toss a pillow on the couch. He heard the faint patter of the shower upstairs, then silence. It wasn't until he sat down at the kitchen table that it hit him what the hell just happened. The next morning, Nolan woke to the sound of laughter. He rubbed his eyes, confused. Laughter? He walked down the stairs and stopped at the bottom. There she was, sitting cross-legged on the living room floor, wearing his oversized shirt and playing with his son, Noah. They were surrounded by Legos. She was laughing at something he said, and Noah looked like he'd known her forever. Nolan stepped forward. "Noah, buddy, we don't play with strangers." Noah looked up. "She's not a stranger, Daddy. She made a spaceship with me." The woman stood up, brushing the hair out of her face. "I'm sorry. He woke up early. I didn't want to just sit here awkwardly while you guys slept." Nolan crossed his arms. "You didn't tell me your name." She smiled, warm but hesitant. "Mira Monroe." He raised an eyebrow. "Where were you heading last night, Mira?" She hesitated. "Upstate. Visiting. A friend." "Friend let you walk through a storm?" She looked away. "It's a long story." Nolan didn't push. He didn't have the energy for drama. He had bills to pay, a job interview in 2 days, and a kid who needed lunchboxes packed. She looked at him. "I'll be out of your hair soon. I just need someone to come tow my car. I left it near the gas station a few miles from here." "You walked that far?" She nodded. He exhaled, then grabbed his keys. "Come on. I'll take you back to it." "Noah, shoes on. You're coming." "Really?" Mira said, surprised. Nolan shrugged. "You're not walking again." The drive was quiet. Mira sat in the back with Noah, who chatted away about dinosaurs and peanut butter sandwiches. Nolan half listened, half wondered what kind of woman wore a watch that looked like it belonged in a jewelry ad but didn't have a working phone. They reached the gas station. Her car was still there, a sleek black Mercedes SUV. Nolan whistled low. "That yours?" Mira hesitated. "It's a rental, right?" She ordered a tow truck, and while they waited, she knelt to tie Noah's shoe. Nolan noticed the way she smiled at his son, like she genuinely liked him, not the fake kind of smile people gave out of politeness. When the tow truck arrived, Mira turned to Nolan. "I owe you for everything." "You don't owe me anything." She paused. "Can I buy you guys lunch? As a thank you." Nolan opened his mouth to say no, but Noah beat him to it. "Can we get pancakes, Daddy?" Mira looked hopeful. "Pancakes?" Nolan scratched the back of his neck. "One meal. Then we're even." They ended up at a diner just off the highway. Mira ordered Noah chocolate chip pancakes and gave him half of her bacon. She didn't ask many questions, didn't push, just listened. When Noah went to the bathroom, Nolan leaned forward. "All right, who are you really?" Mira blinked. "Excuse me. You're not some random woman with a broken-down car. You've got a Mercedes and a purse worth more than my mortgage." She looked down at her lap. "I didn't lie. I just didn't explain. Try me." She glanced toward the bathroom, then looked back at him. "I'm Mira Monroe. I run a tech firm in the city. It's successful." "How successful?" She held his gaze. "Multi-million-dollar successful." Nolan let out a short laugh. "Right. I'm not joking." He leaned back, crossing his arms. So what's a millionaire doing walking in the middle of nowhere during a thunderstorm? She hesitated. Running. From what? Her eyes met his. A man who wanted me for everything but who I am. He didn't expect that. For a second, he saw something raw in her expression. Honest. Real. Before he could say anything, Noah came running back, arms sticky from syrup. Can she come with us again? He asked. Nolan looked at Mira. She was smiling at Noah like she hadn't smiled in a long time. He stood up and grabbed the bill before she could. Come on. Let's go. Mira blinked. I said I'd pay. Consider it my turn to surprise you. As they walked to the truck, Mira looked at him. Thank you again. Really? Nolan glanced at her. You need anything else tonight? She didn't answer right away. Then, softly, just not to be alone again. He swallowed hard. We've got a couch. And a spaceship, Noah added with a grin. Mira laughed. Perfect. And just like that, she came back with them. This time, she wasn't a stranger. And Nolan had no idea his whole life was about to change. The next morning, Mira was already in the kitchen by the time Nolan came downstairs, rubbing the sleep from his eyes and trying to convince himself the smell of cinnamon wasn't real. But it was. She stood barefoot in front of the stove, wearing a different set of his clothes, his oldest hoodie and a pair of plaid pajama pants rolled up at the ankles, flipping French toast with the kind of focus that said she didn't do this often, but was determined to get it right. I didn't touch anything expensive, she said without turning around. Unless you count your last 2 eggs. In which case, I owe you a grocery run. He leaned against the doorframe, eyeing the plate already stacked with golden slices. You cook. I Google. She glanced over her shoulder. And I owed Noah breakfast after promising chocolate chips and giving him none. He's still asleep. Her brows lifted. Then I guess I'm feeding you first. Nolan stepped forward, grabbing a mug from the cabinet. You didn't have to. I know, she said simply, plating another slice. I wanted to. A silence settled between them, comfortable but curious. He poured coffee into 2 mugs, handed one to her. She took it without looking, her eyes fixed on the stovetop like it might require a surgeon's precision. You ever do this? He asked finally. She looked up. Cook breakfast? No. Stay in a stranger's house. Make French toast. Sit around in borrowed pajamas. Mira breathed out a laugh. Not even once. He sat at the table, watching her. So what changed? She placed the plate in front of him, then sat across from him with her own. I think I needed to remember what normal felt like. He didn't ask what her definition of normal was. He already knew it didn't match his. Her watch was gone, tucked away somewhere. Her hair was down now, curling dryly at the ends, and there was a kind of softness to her, less polished, more real. You know, she said after a moment, when I started my company, I used to eat ramen out of a coffee mug because I didn't own bowls. But last year, I had a chef. A whole staff. Sounds efficient. It sounds lonely, she corrected. Everything was about scale. Expansion. Growth. But I can't remember the last time someone made me French toast. Or looked me in the eye without checking their phone. Nolan took a bite. It was better than he expected. So you're hiding from your life? I'm not hiding, she said, then paused. I'm pausing. Upstairs, the creak of a bed signaled Noah was awake. Mira stood instinctively, but Nolan held up a hand. I've got it. She sat back down, fingers curling around her coffee cup. She didn't touch the toast. When he returned with Noah, who was still half asleep and asking if there were pancakes again, Mira already had a plate waiting for him. French toast today, she said, kneeling beside him. But if you hate it, I'll personally invent chocolate chip lasagna to make up for it. Noah blinked at her. That sounds weird. Exactly, she said. So I hope you like this better. Nolan watched the exchange, and something in his chest shifted. Mira wasn't just passing through. She was folding herself in, quietly. Later that afternoon, as Nolan patched a section of fencing in the backyard, something he'd been putting off for weeks, he heard the screen door ease open. I figured you weren't the type to sit still, Mira called out, stepping into the sun. She wore her jeans from the day before, now dry, and a plain black tee he didn't remember owning. I'm not, he said, hammering another nail. And Noah needed fresh air. The boy was chasing a butterfly near the rusted garden bed, completely ignoring the fact that the butterfly seemed to be leading him in circles. Mira walked over, hands in her pockets. I was thinking, maybe I could help. He paused. With what? Anything. The fence. Groceries. Laundry. You let me stay when you didn't have to. I'd like to earn it. I don't need anything. Maybe not. But you deserve help. He didn't respond. She crouched beside him, pulling a glove from the toolbox without asking. You know, she said thoughtfully. I used to think needing help meant weakness. Then I realized it just meant being human. He looked at her, his expression unreadable. You're not what I expected, he said finally. Let me guess, she said, tugging at a bent nail. High heels, high maintenance, high drama? Something like that. She smiled faintly, not denying it. They worked side by side, the silence between them filled with the occasional sound of Noah's laughter. At one point, Mira looked up, her gaze following the boy's path. He's a good kid. He's everything. She nodded. He reminds me of someone I used to know. Before the boardrooms and private flights. Someone you miss? Someone I lost. He didn't press. She didn't offer more. That evening, after Noah fell asleep in front of the television, curled into the blanket Mira had folded that morning, Nolan found her sitting on the back steps, arms wrapped around her knees. The stars are clearer out here, she said as he sat beside her. Less city. Less noise. I used to love silence before it started reminding me I was alone. He glanced at her. You don't seem alone. I'm not, she said quietly. Not right now. And that scares me more than being alone ever did. He didn't speak. The night was cool, the scent of pine and distant rain lingering. Mira turned to him, her face open in a way it hadn't been before. Do you ever wonder, she asked, what your life would look like if one thing had gone differently? Every day. She rested her chin on her knees. If I hadn't walked up your driveway, I'd probably be sitting in a hotel suite right now, drinking overpriced wine and pretending I wasn't empty. And now, I'm here, and for the first time in a long time, I don't want to be anywhere else. He hesitated, then reached for her hand. She didn't pull away. Inside, the old clock chimed once. Mira leaned her head against his shoulder, and he let her. Neither of them said a word. In the silence, something shifted. Not a pause. Not a hiding place. Something real. The knock came just as Nolan was drying the last dish. He glanced at the clock past 9. Mira was upstairs reading to Noah, her voice floating down the hall in muffled waves. He wiped his hands on a towel and opened the front door. A man stood on the porch, tall, wiry, impeccably dressed in a navy jacket that didn't belong anywhere near a gravel driveway. His gaze slid past Nolan's shoulder like he was already measuring the square footage. Can I help you? Nolan asked, planting himself in the doorway. I'm looking for Mira Monroe. Nolan's jaw tightened. She's not taking visitors. The man offered a tight-lipped smile. You must not know who she is. I don't care who she is. That smile sharpened, like it had teeth. Well, I do. I'm her attorney. Footsteps creaked behind Nolan. Mira's voice was quiet but clear. Let him in. Nolan turned. She stood at the base of the stairs, her expression unreadable. She was barefoot, her hair still damp from Noah's bath, sleeves pushed above her elbows. She looked nothing like the woman who had walked through his door days ago, and yet, exactly the same. The man stepped inside, brushing past Nolan like he didn't exist. I told you not to follow me, Mira said, folding her arms. I didn't. Your location pinged when the car was towed. I disabled tracking. You tried. You missed a backup node. Nolan watched the exchange, a knot forming in his stomach. The man pulled a folder from his bag and placed it on the coffee table. The board's worried. You vanished mid-merger. Investor confidence is cracking. I'm not coming back yet. You left $1 billion deal on the table. I left a life I didn't want, she said, her voice flat. I'm not discussing this here. You're needed. I said I'm not discussing it. The man's eyes flicked to Nolan. Is this what you're doing now? Playing house with some handyman in the woods. Nolan's knuckles curled. Say that again. Mira stepped between them. You can go, Marcus. I'll call when I'm ready. He studied her for a moment, then gathered the folder slowly. You know this won't hold. You can't hide in a borrowed life. I'm not hiding, she said. I'm choosing. He gave a slight nod, then turned on his heel and walked out. The screen door slapped shut behind him. They stood in silence for a beat. I'm sorry, Mira said quietly. You shouldn't have come here. Nolan didn't move. You disappeared in the middle of a merger? I walked out of a boardroom and didn't look back. His stare didn't waver. Why? She crossed to the couch, her hands gripping the back of it. Because I realized I'd built a life people admired, but I couldn't breathe in. Every second was measured my words, my clothes, my time. I was surrounded by people, but I couldn't tell you the last time someone looked at me like I mattered outside of what I gave them. He leaned against the wall, arms folded. And now I'm here. And your kid tells me about space dragons and you make coffee without asking for anything in return. And for the first time in years, I don't feel like a product. His tone was even. You should have told me. I know. You let my son grow attached. She looked at him sharply. So did you. The silence between them wasn't empty, it was heavy, full of things neither of them had planned to say. I didn't ask for this, Nolan said finally. I didn't invite you in to play pretend. I wasn't pretending. Then what were you doing? Her voice dropped. Falling. His chest tightened. I didn't come here expecting anything, she said. But then your son asked me to help him build a cardboard city in the garage, and you fixed my hairdryer like it wasn't beneath you, and I realized I wanted to stay more than I wanted to go back. Nolan exhaled slowly. That's easy to say when you're not choosing between rent and groceries. She stepped closer. I'm not asking you to choose anything. I just want you to know none of this was a game. He shook his head. It doesn't work like that, Mira. You leave, and we're the ones cleaning up after it. I'm not leaving. You think Marcus is going to let you fade into small-town life with a pile of contracts waiting? I can walk away. What about your company? She faltered. I built it. I can walk from it. He stared at her like he was trying to see past every wall she'd built. You can walk from $1 billion, he said. But can you stay for a 5-year-old who'll ask where you went every night you're gone? Her eyes filled, but she didn't look away. I didn't expect this, she whispered. I didn't expect him. Or you. He didn't speak. She stepped closer, barely a foot between them. But I'm not running anymore. Not from my life. Not from the truth. And definitely not from this. His voice was quiet. Why me? She blinked. Why not you? I'm not part of your world. I don't want that world. You're used to private jets and corner offices. I'm getting used to backyard sprinklers and burnt toast. He searched her face. And if you wake up one day and remember what you left behind. She reached for his hand. Then I'll remember what I found. He didn't say anything, but he didn't pull away. Upstairs, the floorboard creaked softly, Noah shifting in his sleep. Mira squeezed his hand once, then let go. I'll sleep on the couch tonight. You don't have to. I do. You need space. I get it. She started to turn, but his voice stopped her. Mira. She looked back. I don't know what this is, he said. But I know my son hasn't laughed like this in months. And neither have I. She nodded. Me either. He didn't stop her when she left the room. But long after she was gone, he stood in the same spot, staring at the closed door, heartbeat loud in the quiet. Because something had changed. And he wasn't sure he was ready for how much. The rain came back 3 days later, soft and steady this time, drumming against the roof like a lullaby. Mira stood at the kitchen sink, watching the sky blur into mist over the tree line. Her phone sat on the counter, finally powered on, lighting up with messages she hadn't touched. She didn't need to read them to know what they said. She could have left that morning. She told herself she would. But every time she looked at Noah's latest Crayon Galaxy tape to the fridge or heard Nolan humming some off-key melody while packing lunches, something in her resisted. She was still barefoot when Nolan walked in from the garage, tugging off his jacket, damp from the drizzle. You've been quiet all morning, he said, hanging it by the door. She turned toward him. I got offered a buyout. His eyebrows lifted. You're selling. They want me out clean. No equity. No board seat. Just a check and silence. Silence. A non-disclosure clause. They're offering a settlement to keep the transition smooth. He leaned against the wall. How much? She hesitated. 8 figures. He let out a low whistle. That's a lot of zeros. I've made more. But not like this. He crossed his arms. What's the catch? If I take it, I'm out. Everything I built. My name, my patents, my stake. Gone. Is that what you want? She looked at him. I thought it was. But now I'm not sure. He tilted his head. Then why are you still here? Because I've never been more honest anywhere else. He was quiet for a moment. You should know, he said. Noah's school called. He told his teacher he has a new mom. Her eyes widened. What? Apparently, she asked him to draw his family. He included you. Space buns and all. Mira leaned back against the counter. I didn't mean for that to happen. I know, he said. But it did. She swallowed. Did it upset you? I don't know, he said honestly. I think it scared me more than anything. She brushed hair behind her ear, nervous. I didn't come here to take anyone's place. You didn't take it. You earned it. He stepped closer. I've been doing this alone for a long time. Not because I wanted to. Because I had to. And you walked in like a lightning strike. I didn't ask for it. But I'm not pretending it didn't change things. She looked up at him. I'm terrified that if I stay, I'll mess everything up. And I'm terrified that if you leave, I'll never forgive myself for not asking you to stay. The quiet between them was thick, but not heavy. It buzzed with something unspoken. Her phone buzzed again. She silenced it. I won't make you choose, he said. But I need to know if I matter in this choice. You do, she said without hesitation. So does he. He nodded once. Then maybe we figure it out together. She stepped forward. You be okay with that? I've never been great at letting people in, he said. But if there's one thing I've learned from watching you ration syrup and glue a Lego rocket back together with nail polish remover, it's that you're not temporary. She laughed softly. That's the most romantic thing anyone's ever said to me. It's all I've got. I don't do speeches. She touched his cheek. You don't have to. That night, when Noah asked if Mira would still be there in the morning, Nolan didn't answer. Mira did. I'll be here, she said gently, tucking the blanket around him. I promise. The next morning, Nolan opened the front door to find a sleek black SUV parked at the end of the drive. A woman in a gray blazer stepped out, holding an envelope. I'm here on behalf of the Monroe board, she said, handing it to Mira, who joined him on the porch. They've accepted your terms. Mira opened the envelope, scanned the papers, and smiled. No non-disclosure? None. Full release. You can speak freely, walk freely, live however you want. The woman paused. They're disappointed, but they understand. Mira nodded. Tell them I wish them well. The woman tipped her head and left without another word. Mira folded the papers and handed them to Nolan. I'm out. Completely. He raised an eyebrow. That was fast. I had leverage, she said with a grin. Turns out when you build the entire platform from scratch, no one wants to fight you in court. He stared at her. What now? I start over. But this time, I'm building a life, not a company. Where? Right here, she said, slipping her hand into his. If you'll have me. He squeezed her fingers. I think we already do. The following weekend, Mira surprised Nolan and Noah with a picnic in the field behind the house. She brought a telescope, a basket of fresh pastries, and a blanket big enough for all three of them. Noah bounced with excitement, pointing at clouds and asking if they could name stars after sandwiches. As the sky deepened into twilight, Nolan watched Mira trace constellations with her finger, her other hand resting on Noah's knee. He leaned back, arms folded behind his head. You know, he said, I used to think we were stuck here. Just surviving. And now? Mira asked, glancing at him. Now it feels like we've got a future. She smiled. So do I. He looked at her. You're not going to miss the penthouse and private drivers? She grinned. I've got a backyard, a telescope, and a 6-year-old who thinks I'm a space explorer. I think I'm good. He reached for her hand and pulled her closer. You're more than good. As the stars blinked alive, Mira rested her head on his shoulder, and Noah fell asleep between them, arms spread like wings. And for the first time in a long time, no one was pretending. Nothing was borrowed, and everything felt exactly right. The town's autumn fair arrived with the first bite of cold rustling through the trees, and for the first time in years, Nolan found himself walking through the crowd not with a sense of obligation, but with someone's hand in his. Myra's fingers threaded easily through his, her other arm balancing a paper tray filled with caramel apples and kettle corn. Her laughter drifted through the crisp air as Noah pulled ahead, darting toward the hay maze with 2 other kids from his class. Nolan kept a careful eye on him, but Mira leaned in and said, He's got friends now. That's a good thing. He used to cling to my leg at things like this, Nolan said. Didn't trust anyone. He still circles back, she said, nodding toward the end of the maze, where Noah glanced toward them before disappearing again. But he's learning how to explore without fear. They wandered between booths, stopping to admire hand-carved ornaments and mugs glazed in uneven, beautiful colors. Mira picked up a crooked little ceramic spaceship and turned it over in her hand. He'd love this, she said. Nolan took out his wallet. Then let's get it. As the sun dipped, painting the sky in streaks of gold and plum, a local band started up on the small stage near the bonfire pit. The first notes of an old song Mira recognized made her pause. I haven't danced in years, she said. Nolan looked at her, then offered his hand. Then maybe it's overdue. They didn't dance like people who knew steps. They danced like people who trusted each other to move the same direction. Around them, others swayed and spun, but Nolan only saw her, cheeks flushed from the cold and the warmth of cider, her eyes softer than he'd ever seen them. After the song, Mira rested her forehead against his. "This is the life I never knew I needed. You're not going to regret it?" he asked quietly. She shook her head. Not for a second. Later that night, after Noah passed out in the back seat with a face full of powdered sugar and leaves still clinging to his hoodie, Nolan carried him inside, while Mira turned on the porch light. She lingered outside for a moment, staring up at the stars. "I signed the final release today," she said once they were upstairs, Noah tucked in and snoring softly. "Did it feel like closure?" "It felt like peace," she said. "I thought I'd be sad. But I'm not. I'm proud." He pulled her into his arms. "Then it's time for something new." She looked up at him. "I never thought I'd want permanence again. Not after everything. But now, I want roots. I want noisy mornings and school drop-offs and you yelling at the dishwasher." "It's not yelling," he said. "It's assertive encouragement." She laughed, then sobered. "Let's build something that lasts, Nolan." He didn't hesitate. "Marry me." Her breath caught. "I don't have a ring," he said. "And this isn't a planned speech. But I know what I want. I want you. All in. Not someday. Now." She blinked once, then nodded. Yes. There was no grand stage, no flashbulbs or champagne. Just two people in a hallway with a child asleep behind them and a world of ordinary, extraordinary days ahead. They married in the backyard 3 weeks later, beneath the oak tree that had stood through every storm. Mira wore a dress she found in a second-hand shop, altered by a retired seamstress who cried when she hemmed the sleeves. Nolan wore a suit that still smelled faintly of pine from the closet. Noah stood between them, holding the rings in a box he insisted on decorating with glitter glue and stickers from his science book. When the officiant said, "Do you?" they both answered at the same time. Yes. The guests were few. Close friends, neighbors, the teacher who had called about Noah's space mom drawing. After the ceremony, Mira and Nolan danced barefoot on the lawn, the string lights above them flickering like fireflies. They didn't go on a honeymoon. Instead, they turned the living room into a fort the next night, complete with flashlights and popcorn, and watched Noah fall asleep between them. Months passed, and with them came slow, steady changes. Mira co-founded a local startup incubator with a former engineer she met at the fair. She worked part-time, choosing projects that inspired her. Nolan expanded his carpentry work, eventually opening a small workshop with enough space for Noah to have his own corner to tinker. They renovated the spare room into an office for Mira, though most days she preferred the kitchen table. The garage became half storage, half a spaceship building zone with blueprints taped to the walls. They fought sometimes. Over small things. Dishes. Bedtimes. Whether or not Noah should have a pet frog. But the fights never lasted. They learned how to talk, how to listen, how to apologize without pride. On their first anniversary, Noah stood on a chair during dinner, holding a handmade card. "It says, 'Happy Family Day,'" he explained. "Because that's what this is." Mira looked at Nolan, tears stinging her eyes. He's right. They kissed over a plate of lasagna, and later that night, Mira tucked the card into a box filled with other firsts, the crooked spaceship, a photo from the fair, a napkin with Nolan's scribbled proposal date on it. Years later, that box would sit on a shelf in their home, next to family photos and the framed drawing of a rocket labeled Team Tate. And every time someone asked how they met, Mira would smile and say, "I knocked on the right door in the middle of a storm." And Nolan would add, "And I opened it."